pressure on the U.S. government to hear their asylum claims. Several hundred migrants today putting the pressure on the U.S. government to hear their asylum claims. They pushed past a blockade of Mexican police, standing guard near the border crossing between Tijuana and California. That's where they've camped out as border agents process fewer than 100 petitions a day. And the already treacherous journey for those in limbo at the border has hit another roadblock. Mexico's incoming government is denying there was ever an agreement in place with the Trump administration to keep migrants on the Mexican side of the border while their claims are processed through U.S. immigration courts. The Washington Post reported yesterday the Trump administration had won the support of Mexico's president-elect for the plan known as Remain in Mexico. But future Interior Minister Olga Sanchez now says the next government doesn't plan for Mexico to become a safe third country. That would require thousands of Central Americans traveling in caravans and clinging to the American dream to claim refugee status in Mexico rather than the U.S. Sanchez says ongoing talks with the U.S. on the migrant situation are very delicate. Despite an unrelenting stance from President Donald Trump, those in search of a better life say their plan to cross the border hasn't changed. My message to the United States president is not to scare people, he says. Please remove your troops. And Trump once again threatening to close the southern border on Twitter today. He writes in part, would be very smart if Mexico would stop the caravans long before they get to our southern border, or if originating countries would not let them form. Then he alleges it's a way that they get certain people out of their countries and then dump in the U.S. He writes, no longer.
The U.S. border with Mexico, as some Central American migrants try to breach the crossing between Tijuana and California, all in a bid to pressure the U.S. to hear their asylum claims. Let's go to CGTN's Al Baverstock, who joins us on the phone. All in a bid to pressure the U.S. to hear their asylum claims. Let's go to CGTN's Al Baverstock, who joins us on the phone. Al, we're hearing tear gas has been fired.
Well, that's absolutely right, John. The latest we're hearing is that a group of around 500 migrants made up of men, women and lots of children have this morning attempted just an hour ago to breach that U.S. border, that San Isidro border, with the Customs and Border Protection in San Diego, reporting that the group broke through the Mexican federal police lines and made their way to the border, where they were met by chain link fences, barbed wire and the Border Patrol themselves. We don't yet know if any of them have actually managed to reach U.S. soil, nor whether there are any casualties yet. But as you mentioned, the border at San Isidro, the world's busiest border crossing, more than 200,000 crossings per day, has now been closed. Now, this is thought to be a reaction to the possible policy that Donald Trump has espoused,
where more than 5,000 migrants, of course, have their sights on. And today, the Mexican government, perhaps fearing retribution from President Trump, tried to block the group from crossing into the Mexico-Guatemala frontier. But as you can see here, the crowd broke down the gates and started streaming in. Police using pepper spray were able to finally stop the rest of the caravan, but not after many got through. Now, the Ingram Angle spoke exclusively tonight with a Mexican official who told us the following. The migrants are using women and some pregnant and children at the front of this line in an effort to intimidate the Mexican police. So obviously they're not going to use force against women and children. And the same official relayed to us that there are currently 1,000 Mexican federales at its border with Guatemala. Reinforcements are being sent in as we speak. And the police are telling this source that many of the people inside the caravan grew violent today, injuring 6 to 7 Mexican police officers who themselves have no weapons except shields, and they do have some batons if things get bad, and tear gas. The official closed his conversation with the Ingram Angle saying following, We will not allow our country to be literally invaded from the south. It is critical now to take a stand, because if this model is the immigration model going forward, you will see a caravan of this size coming every week. So Mexico has its own interest in stopping these caravans from flying through Mexico. And now what you see right here is not from the caravan, but take a look at this video Fox News obtained. This is yesterday morning at 3:30 a.m. in Yuma, Arizona. Now you can see 4 different groups of illegals climbing over the border wall, dropping right into the United States. And as President Trump said last night, this could be the election of the caravan. And I wanted to bring in right now former House Speaker Newt Gingrich. Newt, thanks for being here tonight. A big night. Let's start with this caravan issue. The president said this could be the election of Kavanaugh and the caravan. Church does get about $90 million to Catholic Church, Lutheran Church, not quite so much, to resettle migrants in the United States. So a lot of the migrants that cross the border we can't keep them, we don't have any housing, are then dropped at bus depots. William Longinus at Fox did a great report on this yesterday. And then they're transported all across the United States, first in shelters paid for by the Catholic Church, Lutheran Church, other organizations. They do get an enormous amount of money to do this. So there's an interesting like revolving door of cash from the federal government to these NGOs and 501c3s. I want to play a soundbite from tonight. The president, Newt, talking about this very issue. Let's watch in Mesa.
Right now, as you know, Mexico is on their southern border. And they're fighting some bad people in that group. You know, you see the people come up and you listen to the fake news back there and you think they're all wonderful people, right? No, you think, I'm serious. You think they're all wonderful people. You got some bad people in those groups. You got some tough people in those groups. And I'll tell you what, this country doesn't want them. Okay?
Yeah, and I think, again, America is a welcoming country. We love merit-based legal immigration, true refugees, a lot of Christians in the Middle East who have had a really hard time getting here. In Western Europeans try to get the visa lottery, which a lot of us want to get away with, do away with. But Newt, he's right. America, they see that this has gotten totally out of control, and it's just a question of fairness at this point to the American worker.
Well, it's also a question of fairness to people who have obeyed the law. Remember, we accept more legal immigrants
1 million a year
than any other country in the world.
1 million.
So those folks have all obeyed the law. They look over here at somebody who's breaking the law, and I think there's a lot of resentment of why are these people being able to break the law.
Newt, this was Jen Psaki, of course, former Obama administration official, on CNN talking about job growth. Speaking of the midterms, I want to play this.
She's got the case with her, Dan.
Jen.
The job growth has been the case for 6 years. The job growth was actually better in the last year of the Obama presidency than it was in the first year of the Trump presidency. So he's benefiting from that. The reality is that a good economy is good for politics, for the person in charge.
It was better under Obama. Was manufacturing jobs?
She had a better job under Obama. I think let's start with her. I mean, I think she had a better job.
It's a Friday night here. It's really fun.
No, you look, I mean, lowest African-American unemployment in history, lowest Latino unemployment in history. I think we're now have the lowest general unemployment since like 1969. It's pretty hard not to believe that President Trump and his policies have made a very positive impact. The only major economy that's growing right now is the United States. None of the others are growing. And I think that we're doing something right. But I also think it comes back to this question, you know, we want to be a country that is welcoming to people who want to become Americans. And we want to become a country that's welcoming to people who want to obey the law and play by the rules. And I think this whole notion of jobs versus mobs is real. And you've seen it here at home with Democratic mobs. You're seeing it now trying to come up from Guatemala with a mob. And this is a very...
Quote, as necessary to stop caravan of thousands marching toward the United States if they reach the southern border. The president also blasting Democrats for the problem.
Do you know how the caravan started? I think the Democrats had something to do with it, and now they're saying, I think we made a big mistake. That is an assault on our country. That's an assault. And in that caravan, you have some very bad people. You have some very bad people. And we can't let that happen to our country.
Trump also not backing down after saying terrorists and gang members may be among the migrants.
I spoke with Border Patrol this morning, and I spoke to them last evening, and I spoke to them the day before. I speak to them all the time. And they say, and you know this as well as anybody, over the course of the year, over the course of a number of years, they've intercepted many people from the Middle East. They've intercepted ISIS. They've intercepted all sorts of people. They've intercepted wonderful people from the Middle East, and they've intercepted bad ones. They've intercepted wonderful people from South America.
President Trump continuing to answer questions from the media. I did want to play this one more soundbite from just something you're just not going to believe about what was said about our military. Watch this.
If you put military down there, we know what the God forbid is in this situation. And then how does it play? How is that good for anybody if, because, you know, you're not going to turn away thousands and thousands of people, even if people start getting shot. And what message does that send? Who wins in that?
It did surprise me a little bit that he would say that, because our military is not known for going after innocent people. They are there to try to protect the border. So anyway, we'll start with you, Greg, on this issue, the caravan not stopping.
He's not very bright, is that Cuomo fella?
Well, that was not a nice thing to say.
It wasn't a nice thing to say. No, it wasn't. I just wonder about the media because they tend not to ask the very specific questions like, how did the caravan start? Who called it a caravan? How is the event being managed? Who are the people managing it? They always keep saying that the caravan is blooming, like it's some kind of natural event, but it's actually, or that it's spontaneous, but no, it's actually quite organized. It's organized by actually Mexican advocacy groups, and then when you get to the sizable group of people in which you can't tell who's in the group and who isn't, which is why you need a process, because it could be there could be terrorists, and obviously there could not be terrorists, but who's going to know? So the media then takes the narrative and they twist it. So after helping the onslaught multiply, right, they accused Trump of seizing it as an issue when beforehand it was the media and the advocacy groups who had seized on this spectacle to begin with to create an ugly political issue. And then they go, but look what Trump is doing. They're a bunch of hypocrites. And you know what's even sadder? Avenatti is telling the Democrats to grow a spine. When Michael Avenatti becomes your voice of reason for your party, you're in trouble.
Yeah, I'm talking
about is that fake Central American migrant caravan the xenophobic nationalists on Fox News have been trying to scare you into caring about or believing in. The whole thing is made up. It's a mirage. And even if it's sort of real, it's basically on the other side of the planet, far, far away from here. Watch some of the most trusted people in America explain why your fears are ridiculous.
They're telling you the existential threat to America is a bunch of poor refugees 1,000 miles away. This group of folks, we don't even know where they are. They're way down there.
Call this an invasion. It might be the most pathetic invasion of a country in world history if this were actually an invasion, but of course it's not.
People he called invaders, even though they were 1,000 miles away. The programming on the Caravan was propaganda.
Way down there, 1,000 miles away. In other words, the Caravan is a lot like Social Security. It's something we might potentially need to think about someday, but for now, everything's totally fine. Calm down. What liars they are. In fact, parts of that supposedly distant Caravan have already made it to the American border, and many of the illegal migrants in it have already hopped our shoddy defenses and entered our country. The famous people you just watched claim that would never happen haven't admitted they were wrong, intentionally or not. They haven't issued corrections, of course, and they never will. The election's over, so they're on to the next talking point. Meanwhile, the torrent continues. Well, despite the Caravan being a myth invented by President Trump to win a midterm, somehow Univision anchor Enrique Acevedo managed to find it, and he joins us tonight from Tijuana, Mexico. Enrique, I'm a little bit confused. So last time I checked, which was just a couple of days ago, it seems like, that Caravan was, in President Obama's terms, 1,000 miles away, and they were walking. How did they get to Tijuana?
The Caravan is very real. It's
movement of people, thousands of people, around 5,000 have already arrived to Tijuana in the border with San Diego, Tucker, but it's not a national emergency, or it's not a threat to the national security of the United States. Most of the people that are part of this caravan are just pushing strollers through Mexico. Their families, women, babies, that are just trying to get to the U.S., to the border, to legally request asylum, something that President Trump is making much harder.
Before we get to the subjective part, I mean, I'm an American. I'll decide whether it's a threat or not, if that's okay. I just want to get to the practical part of this. So we were told by anchors across the spectrum on television that the caravan was 1,000 miles away. They were walking. It was going to be weeks before they got to our border. I wake up this morning and there they are. How'd that happen? Did they run, or did someone pay buses to take them up here? And you didn't tell us that part.
It took them almost a month or over a month to get from Honduras to the U.S.-Mexico border. Not all of them have arrived. Some of them are still trying to get to this point, Tucker. And yeah, some of them were able to catch a ride and get on a bus, on trailers, on the back of buses carrying chickens and pigs. That's how they crossed and made their way through Mexico.
Wait, hold on. No, that's not quite right.
Some of them are still walking and trying to reach the border.
Wait, hold on. So you're saying that nobody chartered any buses to bring them up here? Because I think we have video showing chartered buses bringing them up here, and you're the reporter on the scene.
Anyone.
You don't think there were any chartered buses whatsoever?
I haven't seen anyone chartering buses to bring them to the border. I've seen Mexican authorities, for example, here in Tijuana, providing transportation from this point at the border to a more humanitarian setting, just very close from here, where 800 people are spending the night. So they're being transported in buses from here to there, but not from Oaxaca to the border.
Okay. I don't think that's quite right. You might want to check your facts on that, because it would be physically impossible for the group to move as a group on the back of chicken trucks, especially with the strollers you claim are there, when in fact the eyewitness accounts we have suggest it's overwhelmingly young, unattached men. But you're saying it's majority women and their babies in strollers? Is that what you're saying?
I'm happy to share the footage with Fox News, the footage from our correspondent Pedro Ultreras, who traveled with them in the back of a bus that usually carries chickens. That's how they got to Sinaloa, to Jalisco. Others catch rides in trailers, in the back of pickup trucks. So that's a fact, and we have proof of that, and I'm happy to share it with you.
I guess what I'm saying is what you're engaging in is propaganda designed to convince people of something that's not true. So I think we both know that the majority of people, including the people we just saw on the tape, moving from Honduras and Guatemala are men, young men, without their wives and children, right? Or are you not going to admit that?
I don't think anyone was questioning the existence of the caravan. What they were questioning is the label of being a national threat, some sort of emergency that needed the deployment of almost 6,000. Questioning is the label of being a national threat, some sort of emergency that needed the
Honduras and Guatemala are men, young men, without their wives and children, right? Or are you not going to admit that?
But how much do you live in the present? How much do any of you lucky, lazy souls really live in the present? When was the last time you really smelt a flower, tasted an apple, felt a breeze, really saw the people around you?
Believe me, I've seen enough of them.
I don't think anyone was questioning the existence of the caravan. What they were questioning is the label of being a national threat, some sort of emergency that needed the deployment of almost 6,000 troops to the border, which we have now. What's next? Would we accept 6,000 troops in Chicago or in Manhattan?
Okay, no, but hold on. It's very hard to make rational decisions about how to respond to something if you don't know what it is, because everyone on TV is lying to you. And it's really clear that everyone on TV is lying to us. They told us that it was going to be weeks before this caravan got here because they were walking. That was a lie. They told us it was mostly women and children. That's a lie. They said there was no one else helping the caravan get here. That was a lie. And so until we get to the facts, we can't know how to respond. So let's stop with the lying and tell us what is actually going on. And you know it as well as I. It's mostly economic migrants looking for higher wages in the United States. I'm not attacking them, but that's the reality.
Tucker, there's no organized effort to try to get these migrants from Honduras to the border, to the U.S.-Mexico border. I know Vice President Pence said that there were forces in Latin America from the left and Venezuela financing this and making it some sort of a conspiracy to undermine the U.S. government. But